Gibson's in Florida, which is Showtown, USA, for those of you who are unfamiliar with. That's where the Carnival, the International Independent Showmen's Association, the club, is located down in Gibsonton. Also, if y'all are down there around Tampa at any point in the future, you really want to make a point of trying to get down to Gibsonton. It's only about 15 minutes south of Tampa, and the Showman's Museum down there at the club, which anybody can go into, just pay your admission and stroll on in. It's an amazing museum. It's every bit as good, if not some would argue, a tad better than the other circus museums that are scattered around the country, Peru and Baraboo. But Carnival is down in Gibtown, that's for sure. But in any event, so Captain Harvey has offered me Rob Bob a couple of times. First time it was Volume 1. Ran up against this. Christ, he offered me the pump and the banner, the Fred Johnson banner. For those of you who know anything about banner painters, Fred Johnson's sort of like the grand old daddy of the banner painters, principally because he worked from the time he was dead in his early 90s and painted like 4,000 banners a year. That's kind of why he's like looked at the way he is. But yeah, he offered me the pump and the banner. Couldn't do it. A couple years later, working with the Mutter Museum. But I'll get all the specimens, because he was convinced that once he died, Captain Harvey was convinced that once he died, all this stuff was going to go to the dump. Because his brother had no respect for that stuff, and he knew his brother was going to outlive him. And his brother, as far as he was concerned, prior to Captain Harvey's death, would have hauled all that stuff to the trash. It would have all just gone. And it wasn't just the pumps that Captain Harvey had when he passed away. It was all of his history in the showbiz was on that winter quarters, because Captain Harvey never threw anything away. And by which I mean anything. He kept everything. He had a little old motel that at one point in time sat there on the side of the road in Wilson, North Carolina. And in every one of those houses, there was stuff. Every one of his little cabins, there was stuff. In fact, at one point he says, James, I promised you all this paper and stuff, all these photos, but that cottage burned down last January, which I saw the remains of, and I wept. Yeah, what else are you going to do? And so the Mutter deal didn't happen either. And finally, I realized Captain Harvey's in really bad health. And I think, and I go, damn it, all those specimens are going to go to the damn dump. His brother is no way going to want to do anything with that stuff. It's just going to be trash to him. And all that history, all those things are going to be gone. Ooh, wait. Oh, wait a minute. Rob Bob will be gone. Nah, that's not going to happen. So I decided, I know what I got to do. I know damn well that Captain Harvey is going to want to part with his stuff. Not just Rob Bob, with all of them. But there's no way that I'm going to be able to come up with that kind of scratch. It's just, the money is going to be ridiculous. I mean, you're talking 5 to 6 figure money for all those specimens. I mean, there were specimens in his collection that would have filled every seat in this hall, plus. That's how many. I mean, it was just preposterous. It was a museum's worth of stuff, a medical museum's worth of attractions. So I think, crap, I gotta get some partners together with this. Principally because if you know anything about buying and selling of antiques or attractions or buying and selling anything, one way to do it is to partner with people in such a fashion that you don't really get any money out of it. What you get is an attraction. That's your payment. What do you think my payment was supposed to be? Rob Bob. It's all I wanted. The rest of the punks, wonderful specimens, amazing things. There are those who collect those kinds of medical specimens. It's not that I don't and haven't, but I didn't care. I wanted Rob Bob. Remember I told you it was a story about lust and obsession, and it drives people to do ridiculous things. So sure enough, I get together my couple of guys to have the money. Because Captain Harvey hits me with an amount of money that's a lot. But wasn't my money? What did I care? I'm the guy putting the deal together. Because that was the essence of what I brought to the table. Because people historically with Captain Harvey, remember what I said about him suffering fools lately and the line sort of gets drawn at the end of your shoe? I'm probably the only guy alive that never had it out with Captain Harvey. And my two partners are like, I ain't dealing with the old man. I ain't gonna touch you. That's on you. I'm like, okay, fine. I'll get robbed out. This is great. That's my money. That's what I get for putting this deal together. So we're about a week or so out from the deal going down. I'm supposed to go down there with one of the partners. We had a guy up in New York that was one of the other partners. And I wasn't really dealing with him. I wasn't dealing with the New York guy. I was just dealing with my guy in Philly. And I find out the New York guy wants a two-headed baby. That's the only thing he really wants. Well, what's the only two-headed baby in the damn collection? Rob Bob. I'm like, oh, no. And he's like, oh, gee, I'm sorry, man, but I was like, there's cyclopses in there. There's amazing. There's things in there I can't even identify out of books. Come on. No, man, I really want a two-headed baby. Not any two-headed baby. He's going to end up with Rob Bob. And I'm like, I don't give a crap. I'll steal the money. I'll rob a 7-Eleven. I don't care. So sure enough, what do? I go into all the drawers, all the and I'm pulling out credit cards with balances on them. No balance on them that I can just get cash for, right? And I'm like, God, that's a new card. I can get money for this. So I go running up to the bank. Well, this is like Thursday night, something like that, Thursday. I'm running up to the bank, and I'm like, how much cash can you give me on this card? She looks at it and she goes, well, we can't give you cash. And I was like, excuse me? You're a stinking bank, right? What do you mean you can't give me cash? And she's like, we don't have that much in the bank. And I'm like, what? What do you mean it's a bank? You're supposed to have money. She's like, we don't have that kind of money in banks anymore. She says, I can have it for you by next Wednesday. Well, next Wednesday the deal's done. I got to be down there this weekend. So I'm like going nuts. She's like, well, we can cut you 2 cashier's checks or whatever, bank checks, whatever the hell they are. She said, but you can't lose them because they're cash. Don't lose them. And I'm like, really? You think I'm going to lose them after a decade trying to make this thing happen? Oh, no, they're not going to get lost. Well, the wrinkle in all this is Captain Harvey's brother is one of these retired post office guys. You know those guys who go postal? And kind of, by and large, really believe they know everything. And he's already convinced Captain Harvey that if he gets this kind of money in cash or in a check, the government will find out. And they'll hit him for taxes. And it's like, let me see, a guy in his late 80s, hardly gets any Social Security. He sells a goddamn truck. And he gets the money. The government's not going to tax him on that stinking money. It's a one-off. They don't, even if it was for $80,000, $100,000, they're not going to care. It's going to be like, fine, it's a one-off. You're an old guy. You're going to be dead in a few years. We can forgive that. It's no big deal. But what have I got? I've got 2 checks. They couldn't even cut me 1 check with the goddamn amount. They had to do it as 2 checks. So I go, okay, fine. So now I got to call Captain Harvey. And now I got to alley out paper. Instead of not cash, it's going to be these checks. And I can hear him wringing his hands on the other end of that phone. He's sweating bullets. Because it's like his brother's going to give him shit about these 2 checks. So I'm like, Cap, well, look, it's like I've got a nonprofit. I don't care. I can write you a G. This was a donation that I can just give it back. I said, you can play any kind of game you want. It's not going to be a problem. It's the same as real money. They're not going to hit you. And he's sweating. So I'm like, oh, Christ, this is going to be a problem, I know. But it's the only way I can do it because that's the only way I can get the money. So the night before we're supposed to be in Wilson, North Carolina, the one partner, the other one's gone now, the New York guy, he's gone. And so a guy from Philly drives down. He's driving down on basically overnight, gets to my place, hasn't been to bed, so his ass sleeps the whole way to Wilson while I'm sort of, at 4 in the morning, I'm driving to Wilson, North Carolina to get there on time. We show up at the winter quarters, Captain Harvey's winter quarters, and he's got all those pumps out, all that stuff out in the range. And my partner, he's stripped to the waist and sweating like a pig, and I'm because it's already getting hot. It's like April down in North Carolina. We're dying down there, loading everything up. And I'm telling my partner, I was like, I got these 2 checks instead of cash. And he goes, yeah, that's going to be a problem. I'm like, well, it's what it is. And I said, look, what we'll do is we'll just load everything up. And once it's all loaded up, we'll just cover it all up. It'll be too much of a pain in the ass to have these checks become a problem. I mean, they're like cash. Come on. So get everything loaded up, cover it all up, because we had to drive back through, I got to drive all the way back to Baltimore and then to Philly beyond that with, like an entire medical museum in the back of my van. Needless to say, you don't want to get pulled over for sort of exceeding the speed limit. What's the old line? The three things you don't do in your car. Let me see. Stay out of the left lane. Don't be the guy passing everybody on the road. Only do one illegal thing in your car at a time. And here I am sort of courting, well, it might not be illegal, but they're going to yank me up anyway. And by the way, for any of you who think that this stuff is illegal, there are statutory things in place for how things get moved and under what circumstances and whether you can ship things overseas. But by and large, the ownership of this stuff is not illegal. And when you think about it, it shouldn't be and couldn't be. Remember my reference to medical museums? What happens when you pass a law that says, oh, you can't have this stuff? Well, I can think of a lot of collections that are sort of on view to the public professionally are going to have to go under or get licensed. Oh, wait a minute. If you can get a license, you can buy one as an individual too. So there's really no way to legislate this stuff in any intelligent fashion. Everybody thinks this stuff's illegal. It's really not. It's what you do with it that starts raising people's hackles. So we're down there, we load everything up. Everything's in my van. We're all ready to rock and roll. And now it's time for the money. So we're in Captain Harvey's trailer. And there's his brother with him. And y'all familiar with, what is it, King of the Hill? And there's a character in there with a tractor hat on. He's like this. That's Captain Harvey's brother. And a pattern from life. And we're sitting there, we're talking, we're doing like the chummy little crap before the money goes down. And like Captain Harvey, look, I told you the other night over the phone, I had to get these checks. They're the same as cash. We'll figure out a way to work with this. The government's not going to be crawling up your butt. And he reaches that shaky hand out from that wheelchair, and he takes those 2 checks, and he looks up at his brother, and he hands them over to him, and his damn brother takes those 2 checks, and he throws them on the floor of that trailer. And I'm like, this old peckerneck's going to blow my goddamn brains out sitting right here in this trailer over these 2 checks. You watch, he's going to pull a piece out on me. Well, about that time, my partner goes, I can fix this. And he flips this damn briefcase that he was carrying around, opens it up. It was like a drug deal. I never saw so much cash in my entire life in one spot. He had more damn money than the bank had. If he'd had that kind of money, I could have gotten it out of the bank. So needless to say, both Captain Harvey and his brother, they get real happy now, because they're seeing like a big wad of money. So I'm like, oh, jeez, I can't believe I actually made it out alive. So drive back to Baltimore. He gets in his car, which he'd driven down from Philly, and because I have no room in my house for all of these specimens, I drive back up to Philly. Now, of course, I've been up since 3 in the morning. He hasn't been up bed hardly at all except sleeping in my van. Drive back up to Philly. Drop everything off, and now I drive back to Baltimore, make it home, basically having not been to bed for 24 hours. And I was going to be up in Philly doing work for my sucker job, as they would say in the carnival, for my full-time, my 40-hour-a-week job. So I'm up there doing work with the government up in Philly. And I figured, well, this is great. We had to haul all the specimens up there. We'll whack them up. So my partner and I, we divvy up the specimens. And I was big buddies with Gretchen Worden. For those of you who are familiar with the Mutter Museum, Gretchen was the now deceased director of that museum for decades. She is what put the Mutter Museum on the map. Prior to her tenure as director, originally as head curator and then as director of the Mutter, she was the one that really made it a public museum, that made it the first or second, depending on when the survey gets taken, most popular museum in Philadelphia, if not one of the most popular museums in the country. And so I was like, Gretchen, come on down. You can watch me and my buddy. We're going to cut up the collection. And she's down there. She's fascinated because that's what the Mutter Museum, to a greater extent, is. I mean, a lot of the reason people go to the museum in Philly The mooter is to see the babies. People can say otherwise all they want, but it's one of the big attractions care of that medical show. And and Gretchen was one of the ones who really pushed that into public recognition in a huge way. And she's looking at the specimens and going, we don't even have one of those. And look at this thing. And she's going through all of them. And we had promised Captain Harvey before we left. I had made the promise to him. I was like, look, I know you and Lou Dufour spent a lot of years amassing all these specimens, getting them all together. And I will do my best in acknowledging that effort and that work. I'll do my best to make sure that the collection parts company with me and my partner, I'll make sure that it parts in as total a fashion as it can, rather than the two of us whacking it all up. And we took a couple each out of the collection. Essentially, that was going to be our money. And then we sold the entire collection to one person, who, from what he told me, had to borrow the money off of his landlord, who robbed his kid's college fund to lend this guy the money. So, there's a lot of sort of borderline ethical kind of decisions getting made here. But last I heard, the gentleman who got it all from us, and who left Philadelphia with the entire collection in a rented van because he doesn't drive, the driver was an off-duty cop who somehow couldn't seem to find it in his power to go less than about 95 to 100 miles an hour down 95 in the middle of the night. And when the gentleman who bought them all was like, you think maybe we ought to slow down given what we're hauling? He was like, I'll badge my way out of it. Really? Really? That's how you're going to alibi this out? You're going to badge your way out of this? I don't think there's a badge big enough in the world, not here or in Russia, that can get you out of this one. And but yeah, he ended up with the lion's share of the collection, and I ended up with Rob Bob. And I'm telling you right now, more sweat, blood, and stupidity has not been expended on anything in a jug ever. I'm a sucker for a thing in a jug. What can I say? Put it in a jug, I'm there for it. I mean, a baby doll floating in water, I'm there for it. I'm gonna be asking what you need, and I wish I didn't have some of those things at home too. But in any event, I'm finished a little earlier than I expected. But any questions about the business generally and about this sick damn story from Word One? Anything at all? Yes.
So, do you have your Palace of Wonders? I wasn't here at the beginning.
Let me see. In a decade, the American Dime Museum went under, the Palace of Wonders went under, and the Red Palace went under. But with any luck, I should be back in the museum business at the beginning of 2021.
Yeah.
So it's going to be preposterously big a thing if I can pull it off. I'm partnered with a couple of people who we're waiting for the venue to get up to speed, and that's gonna take some work because they have to do a lot of architectural BS to it. I'm kind of not at liberty to say, but I'll tell you this.
Is it on the east?
Well, it's here in Baltimore.
Right. Yeah.
And I can tell you, that if I die the day after the opening, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. I'll be happy with it.
There'll be a pumpkin in a
Just
jug.
good, because I'll seen it open. Yes.
Your personal home, is it like a museum when you go in there?
You ever see Hoarders? Well, Dearly Beloved is not as big a fan of all of the stuff as I am. So there are a lot of things which are sort of like, that's going on the third floor. But I have to admit, some of the most amazing stuff, some of the most precious stuff is hers because I bought it for her. So the Fiji mermaid that I have that's been everywhere is actually hers. I bought it for her. It's a gorgeous piece, and it's a real Fiji. Which, for those of you who maybe I should explain gaff, because that's a term people, you know, for those of you who are bands like Gaffer, you know, it's not the same thing. A gaff in the carnival business is almost anything that's not quite what you think it is. And that can go all the way from, well, this is a goddamn lie, all the way up to, what's the G on this joint? What's the gaff on this joint? What's the gimmick on this joint? As in, you're going to play the game and the guy's leaning against the counter so that your ass ain't going to win nothing off of this wheel. Because he's going to stop it wherever he wants to just by leaning on the counter. But in the sideshow end of things, the museum end of things, a gaff is any manufactured attraction, but it doesn't have to be manufactured as literally created from whole cloth, except perhaps as the story. If you have something laying there that 200 years ago would have been understood as, oh, I know what that is, but you don't know what it is today, I can make up any damn story I want about what that thing is. Believe me, I had the American Dime Museum. My partner did that every day. Yeah, it's a thing. And because what you realize real quickly in the showbiz is, other than if you're entertained by what you see going on, you're mostly entertained by what people are saying. And as long as that's entertaining, my line to people is that every story is true to itself. Doesn't mean it's true outside of itself, but you know, within itself, if it's a good story, it's a good story and it's a thing. And if you couple it with a really cute attraction, well, it's a bigger thing. But yeah, there are a lot of gaffes that you see in the, you know, the museums and the sideshow stuff. For that matter, geez, museum business. Dime museums, which used to cost a dime to get into and were populated by a lot of gaffes as well as alive, living and breathing attractions, sword swallowers, fire breathers. It was the start of sideshow, was dime museums. They all had their platforms in those crazy old museums. And then slowly but surely, when Carnival was created to take that kind of show on the road, those platforms turned into one big platform with all those performers on it, with some few museum attractions. And then the museum attractions didn't seem so important given what you were seeing on the platform, the show. So it's a transitional thing, not the least of which, as an observation, is the fact that the difference between the Smithsonian and Ripley's, believe it or not, is the size of the buildings. You know, really, I mean, Ripley's is a descendant of those dime museums to an extent. The stuff's not fake in any traditional sense, but it's stuff that's manufactured for its amazing qualities. You know, cars covered in Lincoln head pennies and all that kind of stuff. They're manufactured attractions. They're not so much gaffes, so much as manufactured things to go in after you parted with your money to look at them, which they'll do it. Ripley's gladly, they'll let you part with your money. But the difference between museums like the Smithsonian and those old time dime museums, I mean, Barnum had in effect, while it wasn't a dime museum exactly, it certainly would have been filled with what you'd expect to see at the Smithsonian, crossed with a Ripley's, crossed with a zoo, crossed with, I mean, it was everything in Barnum's. You know, Barnum's kind of got a crazy sort of reputation, and has when he was alive, but no Barnum, really no sideshow industry as we've got it today. And I would posit that includes what went on in Europe with their fun fairs and the shows they've had over there. Barnum pretty much completely changed the lay of the land for all of it, because he made it so much bigger and so much more grandiose than it was prior, or would have been in anybody else's hands. When you came from Europe, emigrating, you know, those great waves of immigration, when you landed at the piers in New York City, there's a bronze plaque about this big. I've seen it. I know the guy who owns it. And it was right there on the pier. When you got off, all it said on it in raised letters was, "See Barnum's first." That was literally your welcome to America. Because when you went to the American Museum of Barnum's in Manhattan, you pretty much saw what America was about. For better or ill, you saw it all. And it was like a massive Ripley's crossed with a Smithsonian, crossed with, you know, live performances. Barnum was a kind of an amazing multifaceted human being. For those of you who saw The Greatest Showman, Kind of not really Barnum, but I was asked not that long ago by my nephew's fiance, because she had seen the film, and she's like, so how true is it? I was like, well, there was a guy named Barnum. He was married. He had kids. He contracted to come to the U.S. and perform an opera singer by the name of Jenny Lind. He had a museum called the American Museum in Manhattan. That's about it. The whole affair with Jenny Lind, total crap. Barnum did get remarried after his first wife passed away to a woman who was much younger than himself, but it was most certainly not Jenny Lind, who really didn't have a lot of respect for Barnum when she came over. And then she saw the money. You got to figure this is an era before radio, before television, by 100 stinking years almost. Certainly before the golden age of television. She's over here. And there's no way for people to hear squat about Jenny Lind outside of her reputation. That's it. Barnum did everything in his power to make sure that whatever that reputation was in Europe, it was quadrupled here. It was so massive.
It's good now. I resumed it. They're outside.
Are you sure? She said they're outside.
She said, okay, come to the entrance. Hello. Should we bring him on camera? It says,
Who?
It
No,
says-
say bye. Bye.
how do you finish it?
Finish.